And what does it take to compose a trip like that? Because it sounds like quite a lot of different tasks to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, the first thing we do is a conversation. We always start with a conversation, no obligation, just to get to know the people because everybody's different, and we ask people a few questions like, please, tell me about the best vacations you've had.
Mhm.
And what were the special moments? What made them special? And the other side of the coin, if you will, is what were some moments that maybe you didn't like?
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reframe First. I'm Alexis, the host of the podcast. Let me welcome our today's guest, Dan O Beirne, founder of Magical Private Travels. Hi Dan, great having you.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Magical Private Travels is award-winning agency. It's about specializing in three countries, from what I understand. It's Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. It's about custom tours and itineraries. And it's American-owned boutique private travel company working in Spain. So could you tell us more about about the company and about
Yeah,
what you
absolutely.
do?
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, I came to Spain over 20 years ago, and I did one of the bus tours for a few days, and I realized it was kind of it was good because Spain is so beautiful. And then I
Okay.
did the same thing in Portugal, the same thing in Morocco, just to kind of get my feet on the ground. But I realized that we were just seeing the same kind of cookie cutter itineraries,
Hmm.
and that we were missing out on. We were going where all the tourists were going, and that's better than nothing. But I found later on when I traveled with some friends and made local friends that I got a whole different experience. And so that's why I decided to create this business so that I could kind of share that insider's look at Spain, Portugal, and Morocco with other Americans like me that maybe we want to see some of the big sites that everybody goes to, but you also probably want to do things away from the tourist, and you want to go where locals might go and have not the tourist traps ever, but you want to have, maybe it's great food, maybe you want to see great art, great music, or you want to go hiking in a place that's the most beautiful place around that. For example, Madrid or Lisbon or Seville or Marrakesh and down in Morocco, something like that. So it's kind of a more personalized way to travel, because at the end of the day, everybody's so busy, and we feel like time well spent is the ultimate luxury.
Yeah, for sure it is. And what the segment of travelers do you serve? From what I understand, it's like mostly luxury travel, and
Yeah, it's of course luxury has different levels, like
yeah,
everything.
yeah,
So, or we kind of look at it as three levels. So we have the private we call it luxury light, which is someone that wants private services, but they don't want to spend a huge amount on the hotels. So but they still want to be comfortable, safe, and clean places. So we would go with 4-star boutique hotels, and then still have the private tours and tailor making the trip so that once again you're not wasting time doing something you're not interested in ever.
uh-huh.
And then we could go up to like the all 5 stars, or and at the top end we have some people who want the very best of the best, the ultra luxury properties, which you could find in the bigger cities of Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. So we do those activities. Those The activities also, like for example, at the very top end, people might want a private jet, or they might want a helicopter transfer across the Straits of Gibraltar,
Yeah.
because the ferry is, you could do a ferry transfer or a normal flight, but the helicopter saves you time and it's more private. So that's not the typical thing for us, but that is, that's what, maybe 10% of our customers want that. But most of them want they want to have the big experiences, but they don't want the most expensive. That would be the bread and butter of what we do.
Yeah, I see. So it's like 4 stars plus, 4 stars to like ultra luxury.
Or yes, yeah.
And with regards, like you mentioned a few times, like personalized experiences, trips, itineraries, so on. So from what I understand, you're kind of packaging the whole deal. So it's like from getting there, transfer, accommodation, tours, itinerary items. What?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but that's it. Basically, from arrival until departure, we kind of the other. I think the other value, big value that we offer is that if you do it yourself, and I travel independently a lot. But if I book everything myself, I still have to manage it, right? And I have to what if the guide is late or the guide doesn't show up? Or what if the guide is supposed to speak English really well and they don't? If I'm booking it myself, I don't really have any recourse at that moment because my opportunity at that time block. Let's say we went to last year. We were in Pompeii, Italy, and that was a case. I booked a guide
Yeah.
who was recommended, great recommendations. The problem is this guy wasn't available. He was overbooked, and so he sent his cousin, and his cousin
Uh-huh.
was charming, was a wonderful guy, but he didn't really know Pompeii, and he didn't have great English. And I had family members of mine who don't speak, Italian or Spanish, and so they really didn't understand him. And so we ended up, we had a nice time, but we missed the opportunity to have an amazing time, and so that's one of the things we do. If a guide has, the guides are humans, they might get sick, they might have a problem. And if that happens, we have to be able to change to have a substitute that keeps the show on the road at a high level.
So you like provide like two kind of services. First one is like to organize everything, book everything, and another one is to support the travelers through the.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We have actually it's pretty standard in this area of the industry to have you have a 24/7 support person. But one of the little secrets is some of the big agencies, they have the 24/7 support in a call center in some other country.
Mhm.
And so if you have someone who has they have to then call the local. They're probably contracting out with agencies in the other countries, sometimes multiple contractors. So it's hard to get resolution if you do have a problem. And one of the things we do is we have 24/7 people in each country, um, so that we're able to make sure that everything is not only resolved but resolved quickly if there is some kind of hiccup.
Yeah, yeah, I see. And what does it take to like compose a trip like that? Because it sounds like quite a lot of different tasks to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts,
Yeah, yeah.
so, well, I mean, the first thing we do is a conversation. We always start with a conversation, no obligation, just to get to know the people because everybody's different. And we ask people a few questions like, please, tell me about the best vacations you've had.
Mhm.
And what were the special moments, what made them special. And then the other side of the coin, if you will, is what were some moments that maybe you didn't like? What were some problems that maybe came up so that we could understand both sides of of their perspective, and then we create a custom plan. We send it to them to get their feedback and iterations. It's usually just like building software. Probably you have to do iterations, and same thing here. We're building iterations to try to come up with a personalized plan that's if it's a family or a group of friends or a couple, if we still try to have something for each person. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And like, do you have any like got automations in place? Because I think there is quite a lot of
Yeah,
there is room for automation, I would say.
we're using a SaaS service just to help with the construction of the itinerary, but it's not used. There's not an AI component to like build it that we're satisfied with. Maybe somebody will create that in the future because at the moment, we're still using a lot of HI, we call it. So human intelligence and human empathy. So we try to, just use our own empathy and talking to the people and conversing with them, and then also emails, and to come up with something that we feel would be, meaningful for those people.
How much, like, if it's not a secret, how much is lost in like this kind of how do you call HI human intelligence? How
Yeah,
much can be saved there if there are if there are like good enough tool sets for that AI tool sets?
you're saying, how could we build use that,
How
translate
much
in.
how much could you save with the proper tool
But
setting?
how much could we save? Good question. Probably probably a few hours per iteration. So yeah, it could be a valuable thing, especially if we were dealing with more volume. So at the moment, to deal with more volume, you have to just keep. And I'm sure this is going to go to the. This is where AI agents will probably have a role, because at the moment you just have to add more human talent, and assume and hope that they're going to do and that quality control is really hard with when you're doing something like this.
Iteration is by iteration you mean like every single step, or iteration is like the whole process of making the itinerary?
If well, for example, if a person, I mean, we could have some basic suggestions. Like, let's just say a person was their main interest was the best food and wine
Yeah.
in Spain and Portugal. We would get,
This is the
we might
iteration.
we have the regions. We know so we know the where, and then we need to add in, what kind of
What?
the sequence, how many days, what time of year, and then add it. Of course, there's usually other activities that people have. Maybe someone is interested in books, and they want to see one of the oldest and most beautiful bookstores in the world that's in Portugal, or maybe someone else is also interested in a hiking, and seeing the sunset. Somewhere, and then maybe having a wine tasting, watching the sunset, some kind of experience like that. Or maybe someone else wants to have a crew, a private sailing, and to go have a picnic somewhere.
Yeah.
Different little experiences too that we kind of add. It's like adding spice to something if you're cooking.
Yeah, yeah, I see. And yeah, actually, that sounds a lot on a scale. So if there is a scale, this few hours on each iteration, they do add up a lot. So yeah, sure. Before, I was hearing a lot before that like AI cannot replace human because there is a lot of specific domain knowledge in like each region, in how, the ways to operate in culture, culture differences, and all that kind of stuff. But yet you're saying that AI agents can come into play at some point.
I don't know. I mean, maybe
Because
I don't.
you as a founder of a business, from what I understand, you care about efficiency, and you want to save cost probably. So yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, if we were, I think there may be a case for like a building an internal, agent,
knowledge.
whether got GPT or Claude or something that would be able to do more of this. So, but yeah, at the same time, I know that one of the things that's concerning in our industry is, of course, there's more and more. There are these AI itinerary builders, whether it's some of the big online travel sellers like TripAdvisor or something like that. And even some of the big hotel chains are rolling out itinerary builders. And So differentiating, what they're doing is very. I've tested them out, and they're okay. I mean, if you're not, but you're getting still, it's pretty limited. The personalization is and the quality. For example, the very best guides, one of the best guides all in whether it's any country, they don't want to be on the online platforms because the online platforms take up to 30% of their money.
Yeah.
And so they prefer to deal with agencies, or even maybe they even meet customers because of an online forum or something like that, or and so then they're making more money and they have a direct connection. And so in our case, we never asked the guides for a discount. We never asked the guides for a commission. Where look, we'll pay you the as long as you do a good job. If you're a top guide and our customers are happy, we're happy to pay the top, the good wages because we appreciate the guides and that kind of thing.
Yeah, awesome. And I was just diving deeper because, like, it feels like there is enough area for some productized service,
Maybe, yeah,
in terms of AI agents. Because the problem of AI agents, from what I hear a lot, they cannot provide quality. You cannot rely, but you cannot always rely on human. You also,
yeah, that's
uh,
true.
yeah, but they cannot provide the depth, the depths of knowledge. But if some company like yours has some shared knowledge that you have as a company, like cumulative knowledge, and if somehow it can be fed into some sort of like tool set, AI agent, whatever, and it can help you out in like building these itineraries at good enough quality that in the end some human can just sign off. Probably it makes sense.
Yeah, it could definitely be helpful. Of course, I think there's also a case for like the hybrid model where maybe you
Yeah,
have an
yeah, yeah.
AI
The
tool
hybrid.
that does a rapid iteration, and then then you're able to have the conversation because usually no one is happy with the first iteration. They may be kind of happy, but we always want them to be honest and tell us, hey, look, we like 7 of the 10 days, but there's 3 days where we're not really excited. I say, great, thank you. I want to know that. We've got a lot of other options that we can offer,
Yeah.
in Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. So
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Before jumping into market trends, maybe one last question regarding the operation itself. Like, what usually breaks in terms of operation, in terms of like preparing the itinerary for the guest, and the next probably step is like executing the itinerary. What usually breaks in each of these steps?
honestly, initially it would have been, back 20 years ago, the hardest part was finding the A team. I don't know if that's an American term. I don't know if everyone says. Do you know? Is that international too? So finding the A players, the high end players. Like if you're trying to have an international, like I like soccer. Okay, so if I have a soccer team and I want to win,
Football.
exactly. You're trying to build the team and you're trying to find the elite players, and then one thing is you find the player with talent, but then maybe they're not consistent,
Yeah.
and maybe they're not disciplined, and maybe they're going out drinking every night, and so they get injured a lot because they're not
And
sleeping.
a team does not scale really
Yeah,
well.
and yeah, exactly. So that was the hardest part, was finding the guides that not only are really good with you, but they're good with everybody. And even if they're professionals, they're going to show up, even if they're tired and their kids were awake and sick at night, they're still going to do a good job because they care about the customer, not just trying to have big ego and say how smart I am because I know all this history and blah blah blah. So we're looking for the guides that have empathy and they have the head, but they have the heart. So that was the challenge, but we've got that pretty well. We're very happy with our guides around Spain, Portugal, Morocco. So the main challenge now is just getting. We have only 3 countries, so once people travel those 3 countries, we don't really have anything else for them. Although we are offering Italy to our private clients, but it's still that's still a little limited. So we need lead generation, and we want to reach more people so we can help more people have amazing vacations.
So it's rather the lead generations that breaks, not the like itinerary preparation and
Yeah, at this point.
so you fix that side of the business. And when where do the majority of leads come to you from?
Yeah,
Because
so
like
our
Google got broken a bit recently.
yeah, it's definitely more challenging now. So we're still getting Google is still probably like 50%. It used to be like 80%. And we're getting fortunately, a lot of referrals from past customers, and word of mouth advertising, some people call it, and then repeat customers. So we have a lot of customers that repeat, and Spain is actually 1.7 times bigger than Italy. It's bigger than most Americans think, and so there's a lot of regional opportunities for amazing travel experiences in Spain, and so a lot of Americans are starting to come to Spain. Maybe they do Andalusia down south, then maybe they do Madrid and Barcelona and the areas around Madrid and Barcelona. That could easily be a week, and then maybe they do the wine countries of northern Spain, or the national parks of northern Spain, or the Pyrenees Mountains. We have a wonderful partner who lives in the Pyrenees and has a small. He's been guiding there for 25 years, and he could do everything from fly fishing to skiing in the winter to hiking in the summer. So there's a lot. Yeah, that's a little bit about.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. uh, so with regards to like market trends, switching to them, what do you see that has changed in the industry over the last couple of years? Probably post COVID. You're operating for quite a long time, so you should be seeing some change.
Yeah, well, post COVID, Spain was already in the top five over the last 10 years, the top five in the world with, as far tourism statistics, incoming tourism. So with Italy, with France, with USA, but we've jumped up in the last 2 years, depending on which statistics. Spain hit almost 95 million visitors last year, and so that's probably depending on which statistics, it's either first or second destination in the world. So that's another challenge, is avoiding over tourism and avoiding. So the market's changed. There's more people coming here, and also Portugal. Portugal is much smaller, but when you go to Lisbon, when you go to Porto in the north of Port
Yeah.
of or the Algarve coast in the summer, it's just packed, really packed. And then if you get the cruise ships coming in, and
Yeah.
so it makes the quality of the experience, um, frankly, more challenging to. So what we try to do is go off the beaten path and go into areas that are really beautiful, that aren't really well known.
Um, like dupes.
Dupes,
Yeah.
that's or
Yeah.
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I heard the term. So, yeah, if you're not going to Lake Como, you're going to all the nearby lakes because visitors can get the same experience, but less crowded and cheaper.
yes, yes.
So, do you have this like dupe destinations emerging in Spain and in Portugal? It's
So
like look,
you mean sort of the dupes, off the beaten path kind of places?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we have, for example, in Spain, one that's become really, really popular is it's a region on the west of Spain, if you're looking at a map, between Lisbon and Madrid, and then Seville in the south of Spain. Seville's in the southwest. So if you go from Seville up, there's a region called Extremadura, and
huh,
Extremadura has more animals than people. A lot of places in Europe, because everyone is going to the cities. Spain is really densely populated, and Portugal too, in the cities. But the countryside is becoming. It's just not for young people. they don't want to live in the countryside. They don't want to live in a small town. They prefer general, not all of them, but a lot of them prefer to go to the larger cities, right? So this region is one it has a Roman former Roman capital city there that's a UNESCO World Heritage Site called Merida. It has another medieval walled city that has been in all the movies, a lot of historic movies. It was in Game of Thrones and the sequel of Game of Thrones. Also, it's called Caceres, and so people love that area. So that's one that we're seeing a lot of people enjoying in Spain. And then, ironically, in Portugal, an area that is similar to that region, they actually are neighbors. It's called the Alentejo, and so the Alentejo in Portugal is east of Lisbon, and it's a similar a rural rustic area with where they have a lot of sheep, a lot of livestock. Also, they have wine. Both those regions have wine country. They have wine production. They have cheese production. They produce sausages and cured ham, which is wonderful in Spain and Portugal. And they also produce cork for that you can find in the wine bottles. They produce. Portugal is one of the biggest producers of cork actually in the world, and Spain is in the top 10 for cork. So
Mhm.
kind of quirky, kind of different, but it's people enjoy it. So
I hear you're wine lover, so so am I.
do you enjoy wine yourself?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when you come to Spain, wine is
For sure,
I'll invite you to one of my favorite places, and we'll share a something good.
for sure, for sure. Like, what else do you see in so with regards to trends?
So
You
other trends, well, we're seeing a lot more interest in like the cooking experiences, the food, the hands-on food and wine experiences. So when I got to Spain, there was almost none of that. No one was doing cooking classes or tapas tours, or much less food tours or going to or market visits. Not just almost didn't happen. I mean, unless you had a friend that would take you. And I remember a friend of mine that I made in Madrid, and when I got here, took me to the markets, and I've always loved food, so for me it was great. And my friend was like, I didn't think anybody would like this. It's just a boring market. I'm saying, no, this is like really cool because I like food and I like to see, I like to know where it came from, and I like to see the guy cutting it up, and I prefer that than going to the big box supermarket. And I think a lot of Americans are appreciating that because we don't really have that opportunity to see like the food market so much. I mean, with exceptions, there are some exceptions, but in general, most Americans have never been to a proper food market like that.
so it's like traveling for experiences. Yeah, I've recently heard that there should be some added value on top of just transactional travel. Few people mentioned already, and so somebody is doing like is building communities on top. Somebody is adding some social layer on top of just travel. Somebody is deep into personalized experiences. What do you see in that terms? These terms. So we already mentioned it's like going to food markets. It's better than going to see some I don't know Eiffel Tower. But do you see any kind of trend around that? What are visitors tending to to have more than just booking a hotel and seeing something big?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I mean, people are asking us is just how can we beat the crowds? We don't want to stand in line.
Yeah.
So, what of course, we've got a few things like any agency, we could pre-book tickets, you know, and, there's, there's kind of some, I think it's a little misleading sometimes. Like you could go online and you could find these skip the line tickets for everything. The
Yeah.
thing is, there's like 10 different online sellers of like skip the line tickets. So at the end of the day, if everybody has this, skip the line ticket, nobody is skipping the line. It's just a separate door. So the only way you can really skip the line and it still depends on the crowd inside the monument. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So there's certain if you have let's say a palace or a mansion that everyone wants to see, which happens in many places, and you happen to have like four bus tours that are with 30, 40 people each, and they're all inside and they have them. Everyone has their guide, and the guides are talking, blah blah blah. Well, no one else can, maybe because the place is small and there's just not physically enough space, and they're usually slow. They're people that maybe have some mobility issues, and it's just it is what it is. So you couldn't really guarantee skip the line if you were going and you get stuck behind those bus tours, right? So the only way you can really be sure to do it is if you do it like an after hours visit, and of course that costs a lot more, but that is an option that if someone really wants to skip the line, we'll say, okay, well we can do the after hours. We can do the after hours visit, and then there's no bus tours there. That's people ask about that. The other thing people are asking us about is doing something active, even if they're not really, really active, just eating and sightseeing. After a while, they like the variety of getting out in nature and doing something active in a beautiful place. So that would be another one.
Some kind of wellness tourism or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of times it's just walking, maybe it's trail
Or
walking, some light hiking, something like that, or, on occasion people ask for like yoga, with a yoga teacher outdoors somewhere. Sometimes we're just seeing people wanting to do things with doing things that are a little different, like people who are artistically inclined or interested or have kids, and sometimes maybe the kids don't really know about art, but they're still young enough where they're open to try new things, right? And so people will also ask us can we get some time with an artist, and we can do like a workshop and let the kids can draw, and people can make something. So, or crafts workshops. So we know like the artists and craftsmen who are really artisans. They're not just selling something. Some of the stores will sell like these souvenirs that are supposed to be from Portugal or Spain or Morocco, but they're actually from made in China.
yeah. So these are like kind of personalized experiences and like something really local, unique, and they want to participate in that
Yeah, yeah, they wanna feel I think people wanna feel like they're doing something that's connected to
local community,
the place, that it's authentic.
authentic. Yeah, yeah, authenticity. It makes a lot of sense. Uh, you you mentioned before the recording, but still, like, what's limiting the growth nowadays? What's the biggest limiting factor? And
Yeah. Yeah,
what?
for us, the what we've got, like, since we've been doing this so long, and we've we have the guides, we have, the logistics to make the
Yeah,
logistics seamless. We've got all the operational side, we're at a really high level. So the limiting factor for us is just we need more people to know about what we're doing, because, we only have we have the really the 4 countries now. And so that's our getting the word out and getting more people to try out our what we're doing. And so that's where it is right now.
and so what you're doing for that? Well, I'm hearing people like are doing a lot of social presence, social media. I don't know, TikTok, YouTube's, Instagrams, working with influencers, so some Instagram influencers. Are you doing any of that?
A little bit, probably not enough, probably not enough.
I've seen that you are doing that personally, so you have a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of
I
videos.
mean, this was one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you, because I haven't done. In the past, I had people ask me about interviews, and I never did them. And and I probably should have, but I thought, well, let me talk. I would like to see how this goes, and I'm really having a great time talking to you, and so this is a fun conversation.
And what else are you doing for? How do you
Yeah,
try to grow your acquisition channels? I'm
yeah,
also interested personally because I'm interested for my own business.
sure, sure. I think the main thing is I've been that's been working for us and I'm not doing enough of it is just staying in contact with with past customers, past clients. And not trying to like sell them, not like just saying, hey, I've got this new thing and here, why don't you buy it? I'm just no, I'm just like just a little, I'm just doing a real personal outreach. John, I just thought about you and your wife, when because I was in this place and it was something I thought you might like, and hope you're doing well or something like that. And maybe, just little things like that. And then, it keeps, I think that's just human, just being, trying to be human and maintain a relationship. I think it's helpful if it's real for you.
But you had like thousands of guests over the years of operation, so it's quite hard to be
Yeah.
personal with
It could
each of them.
It is hard to stay in touch with all of them. So I guess I'm going more from the ones that like I do try to get out of the office when I can. I probably only meet 20, maybe 10 or 20% of the customers. And maybe we just have a coffee or something. Or maybe, maybe it's just maybe I'll go to the hotel and just say hello and bring them a bottle of wine as a gift or something. So the people that I've met, it's easier to reach out to, I find.
Yeah, we also tried the tactic to send a bottle of wine. So, it works, people do remember us.
Yeah, do you mean when they were visiting? You mean when they were on the trip, or do you mean when they were at home?
Oh, just sending them forward posts. So somebody was having some wine tasting, and we were like, "Do you have Ukrainian wines?" There, I was like, "No, we'll send you, so that's no problem. We have good wines here." So, you know, uh, yeah, it makes sense. Absolutely. I recently heard a guy saying that he's not building a funnel, also a travel agent, from US, but he is operating in US. I'm not building a funnel. I'm trying to build a flywheel. I'm trying that people spread the word of mouth about like my services, and that they like come back themselves and they bring their friends either. So the
I like that.
self feeding funnel. So,
Right. Yeah,
uh,
can you yeah, that's interesting. That's
and
interesting.
this concept resonated with me, but you need to like first you need to deliver quality service from what I hear you do, and we also do like my company does. And second, you need to somehow continuously keep in touch with them and keep like and have a personal touch with these people. Uh,
Yes.
in my case, it's probably easier because we do not have that many. We have big clients, but we have a bit limited number of them. It's like tens of them, not thousands as you do. in your
Right. Yeah,
in,
we've got over 15,000.
Oh, well, but if you have like I'm thinking now, if you have some information about them, when they came, who they are, where what they did, where they traveled, you can fit it into some AI algorithm, whatever, and try to address them. Hey, John, we met like 10 years ago, 5 years ago. We still remember and stuff. And well, by the way, like we have something new open for you. This may be a good like feedback into the funnel. So this kind of flywheel, the concept of flywheel that I heard, it did resonate with me, and I'm trying to share it,
Yeah,
trying to
no,
be
I like
useful
that.
here.
I like that. Never that's a great idea though. I just connected that idea. I think what you said, what I understood was like if you look at the date of the travel on the itinerary, which we have all that,
Yep.
you create just the system. I could probably do it with like Claude Cowork or something and just say, hey, give me a list of all the travel dates for all these customers. And then look at like the anniversary. It's like, oh, hey, you were here in, 2015 and you were in Portugal.
And by the way, we have a similar tool, or something quite different in Morocco.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you think you might like it, and so on. So it might make sense for you, like speaking
Yeah,
about
no, I think it's real. Yeah, that's,
scientific. Awesome, awesome. Glad to be useful a bit.
yeah,
uh,
no, absolutely.
So with regards to like market trends, coming back to it, where do you see it moving in coming few years? Maybe it's too hard to guess about few years. Maybe in cover coming 6, 12 months, 18 months.
Well, I think, what part of there's the white elephant in the room. It's not really an elephant. It's like the whole situation with the Middle East is certainly concerning, because especially, first, I mean, first the human aspect of it. I mean, it's terrible to see, to see wars anywhere, whether it's Ukraine, Iran, anywhere. So, we feel for all those people who are, those civilians especially, but everyone who's impacted by that. And then there's the effect on the travel industry, which kind of pales in comparison. I feel kind of callous complaining about it. When I think about the people who are the people that are living in those countries, but anyway, it is an issue because people see the airlines getting or flights getting canceled and things like that, and so they're more nervous. Like right now, I've got a larger amount of people who are interested, but they're not ready to book because they don't want to book and then have maybe the airline's not working, or maybe there's some other, or maybe things get, the unexpected, or the fear of the unknown, and they're probably watching the news too much, 24/7, and the news always tries to scare people more and more and keep them watching. So that's certainly an issue right now, and in the short term. And we're optimistic. Hopefully there'll be some solutions and some peaceful solutions for all those situations. But anyway, that is a factor. Other than that, what we're seeing is like probably there's the bigger companies, um, anywhere, are, seem to have con- taken more of the, it seems like they have more of the market, although I don't have, exact statistics. But when I look at Google search, when I look at, just do a few searches, it looks like the bigger tourism companies are showing up more and more in some of the searches that I do. So that would probably, which sort of makes sense. They've got teams of marketing experts and teams of
Well,
developers,
it's
and
not only that, it's about Google. So
yeah,
that's what we noticed. That's like 2 years ago, Google switched, well, when fighting with AI, they switched to only bigger brands. All of a sudden, Reddit became number one platform in travel.
what the number one? I missed that. The name of that platform was
Reddit.
Reddit. Reddit became, yeah.
So
Okay.
whatever you search in travel, Reddit is within the top five. So all of a sudden, Google is like for sending all the traffic to Reddit, and then there are like big names who have reputation, and who Google can be confident that they are not fake. And otherwise, Google fighting with AI, they were so afraid that like Google's main goal is to provide the fastest and best answer to the user, and then they don't really care about the providers of that answer. So
Yeah.
that's why Google AI plus big names, it's all the top of the Google search results. Yeah, that's the dominance from Google side. That's why like AI LLMs is probably one of the answers for other players.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's at least what I felt with our platform. So all of a sudden, we're just losing. We lost a lot of traffic from Google. But yeah, I also hear you that, and I also heard from other guests that I interviewed that they are afraid of big platforms, that they will just dominate the market, because it's quite, especially with tours, with anything, I was chatting with a lady who is doing yachts rental around Mediterranean, and she said like anybody like can post photos of great yachts, and but nobody, the guest, when he is trying to book something, he doesn't really know what level of service and what level of personalization. That's why like bigger platforms have a tendency to just dominate the market, because as you said, they have better marketing people, but better engineers and so on. And how would you fight with that? Because you do provide personalized service, you do provide great experience. That's something that like global OTA cannot, online travel agency cannot provide.
Right.
But the visitor, your guest or your potential guest, does not know that you do provide that better service. How would you fight with that?
Unless you're a referral, that's the thing. That's where the relationship, I think, is like one of the keys to
Yeah,
like keeping, staying to competing with with the bigger online platforms. And the other is the other, which is on my list of things to do, which I do I have done a little bit of, but I think it's to go and make content with like interesting local people. So whether it's a winemaker or a chef or an artisan, or even the manager of a hotel, if someone who doesn't mind talking on your camera, making a quick video. I think those are ways that, and I think also with the algorithm would probably find that interesting. It's another external, um, an external, proof that you're actually in your destination. And I think the argument there is really simple. If you actually really know your destination, you're not doing 50 countries. I mean, I always tell people, listen, the big online agencies they do a very good job, but if you really want to go deeper than the mass market, you need to find someone local, someone who lives in the destination because there's no way they could know all and have the relationships in the
yeah,
destination that we have. So I think relationships.
yeah, relationship. Yeah, it makes sense. And for what you mentioned, like interviews with local people, with local hotels and stuff, it makes you it adds like to your authority, and it makes you look like an expert in that field. So you're not a global player, but you're local and you're expert on the local field. So yeah, it really makes sense. That's also what I'm hearing. Like you're probably yeah, the third time I'm hearing that like building your expertise in the niche you're working in
Yeah,
and
it's like
and
showing it.
and, and showing it. Yeah,
Yeah, because it's easy to be an invisible expert.
yeah.
You know, so
That's
so,
one of the reasons I'm trying to run this podcast, because like we do work in the industry for like 15 years, but nobody knows.
right. Yeah, yeah. I'm same thing, same thing. I mean, a few people. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, someone suggested to me to do the same. Actually, if two people have suggested. They told me, to do a podcast so that I could, doing what you're. So hats off to you. It's a great idea. Maybe I'll start. Maybe I should start a podcast, and you can be my guest.
Awesome, for sure, for sure. Awesome. That's a really great discussion. Thanks a lot for it. It's closing to 1 hour. It's nearing to one
Oh
hour.
wow, wow. Yeah. Just yes, time is going very fast, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, it was a great and quite intense discussion about a lot of different topics. So thanks a lot for this discussion. Like before we wrap it up, do you have anything else to add on top of that?
I would just say if anyone out there is thinking about going somewhere, doing something, just remember life is short, and plan your trip wherever it is and go do it.
Yeah, that's also my suggestion. uh, Thanks, Dan, for the discussion, and good luck
Yeah,
with
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
This is great. You've had very good questions, and you're very so. Yeah, I think you're going to have a bright future with the shows, because It's nice to your questions are really good, thoughtful, and provoke good. You made me think about a lot of things that I had forgotten about. I think so.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, and have a great day.
Okay.
Yeah. So